The year is 2025. Donald Trump, back in the Oval Office, has unleashed a wave of deportations, tearing families apart and leaving communities in fear. His administration, with Stephen Miller as a key architect, claims this aggressive approach is necessary to protect national security. However, critics argue that these policies are not only morally reprehensible but also unconstitutional. They warn of a nation where due process is disregarded and basic human rights are trampled upon. This is not just about immigration, it's about the very soul of America. Trump's plan, shrouded in secrecy and fueled by executive orders, has sown chaos and confusion. Rumors swirl about mass roundups and detention centers operating outside the bounds of law. Fear permeates immigrant communities as families live in constant dread of a knock on the door. The administration justifies its actions with vague pronouncements about national security, but the lack of transparency raises serious concerns. The plan's reach extends beyond undocumented immigrants. Legal residents, even naturalized citizens, find themselves caught in the dragnet. A minor infraction, a forgotten document, or simply the color of their skin can be enough to trigger deportation proceedings. This climate of fear has a chilling effect on entire communities. The administration's rhetoric, laced with xenophobia and fear-mongering, further exacerbates the situation. Trump's pronouncements about immigrants as criminals and a threat to American values have created a hostile environment, emboldening those who would discriminate and incite violence. This is a nation at odds with itself, grappling with a crisis of conscience. Central to the Trump administration's deportation plan is the erosion of habeas corpus, a bedrock principle of American law since its inception. Enshrined in the Constitution, habeas corpus guarantees the right of an individual to challenge their detention before a court of law. It ensures that the government cannot imprison people arbitrarily or without justification. Under the Trump administration, habeas corpus is being systematically undermined. Immigrants, even those with legal status, are being detained indefinitely without access to lawyers or the opportunity to contest their deportation orders. This blatant disregard for a fundamental constitutional right has sent shockwaves through the legal community. The administration argues that national security concerns supersede individual rights. However, critics view this as a dangerous precedent, one that undermines the very foundation of American democracy. They argue that sacrificing core constitutional principles in the name of security creates a slippery slope towards tyranny. The erosion of habeas corpus is not just a legal issue, it is a moral one. It strikes at the heart of what it means to be a free society. When the government has the power to detain individuals without due process, it erodes trust in the rule of law and creates a climate of fear and uncertainty. The Trump administration's deportation plan represents a dangerous expansion of executive power. Bypassing Congress and acting unilaterally, the president has unilaterally implemented sweeping changes to immigration policy, often through executive orders and directives. This power grab has raised serious concerns about the erosion of checks and balances, a cornerstone of American democracy. Critics argue that Trump's actions set a dangerous precedent, allowing future presidents to circumvent the legislative process and rule by decree. The lack of congressional oversight weakens the system of checks and balances designed to prevent the abuse of power. This concentration of power in the executive branch has far-reaching implications. It undermines the role of Congress, weakens the judiciary, and threatens the delicate balance of power that is essential for a functioning democracy. The consequences of this power grab could be felt for generations to come. The Trump administration's actions have sparked a fierce debate about the limits of presidential authority. While the Constitution grants the president significant power, it also establishes a system of checks and balances to prevent tyranny. The current administration's disregard for these constraints threatens the very fabric of American democracy. The Trump administration's deportation plan has disproportionately impacted vulnerable communities, raising concerns about racial profiling and discrimination. Reports of ICE raids targeting predominantly Latino neighborhoods, often based on flimsy or non-existent evidence, have become commonplace. This climate of fear and intimidation has had a chilling effect on these communities. The separation of families at the border, a particularly cruel aspect of Trump's immigration policy, has left lasting scars. Children have been ripped from their parents' arms, detained in overcrowded and unsanitary conditions, and left to navigate the complexities of the immigration system alone. The trauma inflicted on these families is immeasurable. The targeting of vulnerable communities through discriminatory immigration policies is not new in American history. From the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 to the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, the United States has a long and shameful history of scapegoating and persecuting minorities. The Trump administration's actions echo these dark chapters in American history. By targeting vulnerable communities, the administration is not only violating their constitutional rights, but also perpetuating a cycle of discrimination and injustice that has plagued the nation for far too long.